Howdy, and today we're going to be doing a bit of a writing exercise. I've already picked out what we're going to be doing as far as prompts go, so you didn't have to sit here and wait for me to do that. I want you to follow along with me as part of this exercise. Don't copy, follow along, and then post what you come up with in the comments below. Alright, so I'm on Fantasy Name Generators, and I've used their story concept idea generator to come up with some prompts. And I have these three. I'm going to go ahead and increase the size a little bit so they're easier for you to read, and move this over so I'm not in the way. Secret map of a metro station, spirits of the nearby city, ghost hunting with a stranger. Okay, so what I want you to do, again, is follow along with what I'm doing, but not copy. I want you to come up with your own ideas for these things. But I'm going to kind of work through it as a writing exercise to come up with an outline for a short story. And I want you to do the same, but with your own ideas, your own imagination and preferences, because this could be modern day, this could be horror, it could go in any number of directions. These are just very simple prompts. It could be more of an adventure thing without any actual ghosts, but horror with ghosts. You could do urban fantasy. Lots of different directions we could go in with this, okay? So I want you to use your preferences and sensibilities and imagination, and let's see where you end up in the comments. And then I'm going to do my own thing, and you can kind of see how I do this. So we've got a very basic outline here: ghost hunting with a stranger, spirits of the nearby city, and secret map of a metro station. Okay, so this kind of gives us the basic idea that we're going to be building from. So to me, this says possibly either horror or possibly kind of a satire of ghost hunting shows. So that's kind of the direction that my mind goes in first. So I'm going to say whenever I'm doing a riff on something that would be like YouTube, I use WeTube as my kind of personal fictional version of YouTube. It's just WeTube or UsTube or something, or TV, WeTV, Us TV, whatever, something like that. A WeTube channel about ghost hunting. And then let's get some characters. So let's just go with American, or we could even go British. We could say that it's British because they have a lot more train stations and tube stations and stuff over there. And let's go with go Blair Witch, maybe 3 characters. Eliza Johnston, okay, that works. Let's get Lucien King, Dominic Hayes. If you hear banging, it's because I have a jackass of a upstairs neighbor that thinks that banging on the floor is a reasonable pastime, I guess. Let's go Polly Carr. Let's just go ahead and do 4. Carson Rogers works. Okay, so we've got a WeTube channel about ghost hunting. We've got some character names. Okay. Let's just say it's going to be in London. Let's say that Eliza is kind of the mastermind, the one who runs this thing the most. Kind of the I don't know what other way to phrase that necessarily. finds a map of an old metro station that has been sealed up for decades. Has lots of urban legends about it. Supposedly super haunted. The map shows how to get in safely and the layout of the station. She got it from an urban spelunker. I think that's right. Urban spelunking is like adventuring in underground spaces and lost spaces of cities. Basically, it's like, splunking is cave exploration, and it's just doing that, but in a city space. So let's see, what do we got next? So let's go ahead and fill some of the character traits out. Eliza Johnston. Some reason to me that says black girl. I don't know why Eliza. Maybe something about that name just makes me think that kind of heritage. I don't know. Believer has been into ghost hunting. She was little. Let's say she's 24-ish now. So let's see. Dominic Hayes. Boyfriend. Together for a few years. He's not as into the ghost stuff, but supports her hobby. Polycar. Her BFF. So she's interested in ghosts, but doesn't really like ghost hunting as much. One of their friends who is also really into ghost hunting. Okay, so we've got the one who is super into it. The boyfriend that doesn't really give a shit, but is, he supports the girlfriend, Eliza's BFF, who is interested in ghosts, but doesn't really like the ghost hunting part that much. Because, it's if you're not familiar with ghost hunting, the reality of it, it's hours and hours and hours sitting in the dark with very little happening, hoping that you get that one little interesting bit of evidence that you can't explain, that you can say, okay, maybe this is actual evidence of something supernatural. It's often dirty and cold or hot, depending on the time of year. If you're in spaces where there's not a lot of security, you could be dealing with homeless people. There's problems that people or places have with people breaking in to do ghost hunting, violating the law, so it's a whole thing. There'd be lots of reasons to not really be interested in the ghost hunting part of it. And then we got Carson, who is, like Eliza, is really into the whole thing. Okay, so we have some characters. We have basically what's going to kick off the story. So my next step usually is to try to figure out what is going to be the ending. And that usually would mean also figuring out what kind of story we're dealing with. Do I want this to be more satire of ghost hunting, or do I want it to go more in the direction of horror? or do not even necessarily satire. Do I want this to be kind of a because I am familiar with ghost hunting, it's a subject that does interest me. Uh, could actually just do it as, a realistic about ghost hunters looking for evidence of the supernatural. So, the question is, how do we want this to end? Because my way of thinking about doing story writing is that once you have your beginning and once you have your end, you have your 2 points, the rest is filling in the blanks along the way. You have your starting point and your ending point. The rest is a path on how you get there. And it's a lot easier to fill in that path when you know where you're headed to begin with. That's one of the things I would always say to anybody just starting with writing. Don't just try to start writing a story and see where the hell you end up, because it's like trying to go on a vacation and not knowing where your destination is. You might end up in the back ass end of nowhere, not knowing how you got there, or where the hell you're going to go next. When it comes to writing, that's usually what's going to happen. You're not going to know how you got where you are, or where you're going to get to in the end. So, I always say try to have that starting point and that end point, and that way you can figure out what comes in between. You'll always have at least that one guiding light at the end to help you find your way. So I think we'll do, for this prompt, I want to throw in just a little bit of a horror stinger at the end, just a little bit of spooky, because I think anybody that would read this kind of story would feel a little disappointed if there wasn't something that happened at the very end. So I think it's going to be the kind of story where most of the story is getting into the station, investigating the station, and maybe dealing with some homeless people and security along the way. The ending. They get back thinking they found nothing, only to discover several clips of a mysterious, unexplainable figure in some of their footage. Okay, so now we have the basis of a story, and that's what you do these kind of writing exercises for. Is there anything else that we want to go ahead and fill in here? For the purposes of this exercise, I think we're pretty much done, and I don't want to drag this out any longer, because don't really need to. It's an exercise. So what I want you to do, if you've decided to watch the video before starting, you're going to be influenced by what I came up with, but try not to be. Go ahead, and I want you to take just this prompt. This is the part I want you to focus on. Just these 3 lines of text. Forget everything else that I came up with myself. That was just kind of showing you how you can take something and make it into an idea and flesh it out a bit. I want you to do the same thing, but I want you to, again, use your imagination, your sensibilities. Where does your mind go? You read these 3 sentences. Secret map of a metro station. Spirits of the nearby city. Ghost hunting with a stranger. I decided they weren't strangers, but that's the thing about these kind of writing prompts. You don't have to pay attention to every single little thing. The point is that I took the ghost hunting and the other stuff. I want you to take those 3 lines and come up with something and then post it in the comments. I want to see what you can come up with. Thanks for watching. Subscribe, like, share, comment what you come up with. Check out the description for more resources. I'll see you all in the next one. Later.